Just from the work that we've done this morning, is there anything that's come up for you that you'd like to work on?
My relationship with my son.
Okay, so when you say that, is there a response in your body anywhere or an emotion?
Fatigue.
And where do you feel that in your body?
That's my chest.
Chest. And is that fatigue in your chest a tightness, a pressure, or
It's just heavy.
heavy? Alright, so let's start with that. Even though I've got this heavy feeling in my chest,
Even though I've got this heavy feeling in my chest,
when I think about my son,
when I think about my son,
I feel this fatigue in my chest.
I feel this fatigue in my chest.
I accept myself and my body,
I accept myself and my body,
and I ask my guides and higher self
and I ask my guides and my higher self
and my body
and my body
to take me to where I need to go.
to take me to where I need to go.
This feeling of heavy fatigue in my chest
This feeling of heavy fatigue in my chest
when I think about my son.
when I think about my son.
This heavy fatigue in my chest,
This heavy fatigue in my chest.
tuning into it.
Tuning into it.
When I think of my son,
When I think of my son,
that fatigue in my chest,
that fatigue in my chest,
all that heaviness.
all that heaviness.
When I think about my son,
When I think about my son,
I feel tired.
I feel tired.
All that fatigue in my chest.
All that fatigue in my chest.
When I think about my son,
When I think about my son,
especially a certain event or time.
sure.
So what comes up for you when you think about feeling really fatigued, that heavy fatigue feeling in your chest when you think about your son?
We were visiting him a couple of months ago, and he was disrespectful. He told me what I'd said was stupid and uninformed, and
Okay.
he went off on a rant.
Okay. Alright, so tuning into that. Is it still a heaviness in your chest when you think about that? When he called you stupid?
Yeah.
Okay. So even though I remember,
Even though I remember
just a few months ago,
just a few months ago,
when my son said I was stupid,
when my son said I was stupid,
and what I said was irrelevant,
and what I said was irrelevant,
and then he went off into a rave,
then he went off into a rave.
I felt very disrespected.
I felt very disrespected.
I felt he was disrespecting me.
I felt he was disrespecting me.
I accept myself
I accept myself
and all my responses and reactions
and all my responses and reactions
that I feel in my chest.
that I feel in my chest.
I remember my son,
I remember my son
just a few months ago,
just a few months ago
telling me I was stupid.
telling me I was stupid.
I was misinformed.
I was misinformed.
He was disrespecting me.
He was disrespecting me.
He went off in a rave,
He went off in a rave,
and I can still feel all the emotion,
and I can still feel all the emotion,
that heavy fatigue in my chest.
that heavy fatigue in my chest.
And I thank my body for holding on to it,
And I thank my body for holding on to it.
but it's time to process and release it.
But it's time to process and release it.
It doesn't belong trapped there.
It doesn't belong trapped there.
And I want to release it all the way back to its origin,
And I want to release it all the way back to its origin.
to the time 2 months ago,
To the time 2 months ago,
and all the times he's disrespected,
and all the times he's disrespected me.
all the way back to the very first time,
All the way back to the very first time.
whether in this life or another.
Whether in this life or another.
Okay, so take a deep breath. So how's your chest feeling? When you tune into him saying, "You're so stupid," what you said was irrelevant, is that what he said? Irrelevant or misinformed?
What misinformed?
Misinformed.
Yeah.
What you said was misinformed. And when you remember the look on his face and the sound of his voice and the rant that he went off with, who was that? Who else was there? Wayne. So how did you feel? Did you look at Wayne? Did you see the look in Wayne's face? Or was it just the look on your son's face?
I was sitting beside my son, and I didn't really see his face.
So it was more the sound of his voice saying, "You're so stupid, what you've said is so misinformed." And do you remember seeing Wayne's face or anything else? So it was more the sound of your son's voice. Even though I can still hear the sound of my son's voice.
I can still hear the sound of my son's voice.
Saying, "You're so stupid.
Saying, "You're so stupid.
What you said was so misinformed."
What you said was so misinformed.
And I can still hear the sound of disrespect in his voice.
And I can still hear the sound of disrespect in his voice.
I accept myself.
I accept myself.
And the response in my chest.
And the response in my chest.
And all the times I felt that fatigue.
And all the times I felt that fatigue.
When he started disrespecting me.
When he started disrespecting me.
All those times he disrespected me.
All those times he disrespected me.
I can still hear his voice.
I can still hear his voice.
Just like a few months ago.
Just like a few months ago.
Disrespecting me.
Disrespecting me.
Disrespecting my opinion.
Disrespecting my opinion.
It made me feel.
It made me feel.
Other than disrespected.
Angry, indignant.
Made me feel angry.
Made me feel angry.
Made me feel indignant.
Made me feel indignant.
And I can still feel that in my chest.
And I can still feel that in my chest.
And I want to process and release it.
And I want to process and release it.
All the way back to its origin.
All the way back to its origin.
In this life or another.
In this life or another.
Asking my chest to release it.
Asking my chest to release it.
Releasing the anger and indignity. Or indignancy.
Releasing the anger and indignity.
Yep. Okay. So, is there another time that you can remember, like the first time or the worst time that he made you feel disrespected, angry, indignant? Yeah.
Don't know about the first time, but
A worst time?
Really bad.
Okay. So when you tuned into that one a couple of months ago, has that gone down a bit?
Yeah.
Okay. So go to another time.
Okay.
And how old was he then?
It was 2.5 years ago.
And where were you?
We were on a beach in South Australia, at a beach house. South Australia. Wayne and I were down visiting him and his pregnant wife.
And what did he say?
He was telling us about that he didn't plan to become a citizen of Australia. And I said that based on what we had seen going on in the United States, it was my conclusion, it is a really good idea to be a citizen of the country you're going to live in, especially if you plan to be there for the foreseeable future. And he went ballistic and said that I didn't know what I was talking about, and I didn't know Australia, and on and on and on. And there was, we didn't speak much for a couple of days after that. We just avoided each other.
So even though I can remember, visiting my son 2.5 years ago,
2.5 years ago,
in that beach house in South Australia, when I suggested that it might be a good idea for him to become an Australian citizen,
for him and his family to become Australian citizens,
because he was going to be living there for some time, and he jumped down my throat, saying, "You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know Australia." And I could feel that disrespect and anger and indignant feeling. And I didn't want to speak to him. I avoided him for the next few days. I accept myself and all my responses. I can still feel the anger. He went on and raved about it. Said I didn't know what I was talking about. I was just trying to make a suggestion. Based on my research. My opinion. And he threw my opinion out the window.
And he threw my opinion out the window.
And stomped on it.
And stomped on it.
He raved.
He raved.
And I didn't talk to him for days.
And I didn't talk to him for days.
I avoided him for days.
I avoided him for days.
All the anger in my body.
All the anger in my body.
Feeling disrespected.
Feeling disrespected.
I want to process and release it.
I want to process and release it.
All the way back to its origin.
All the way back to its origin.
The first time I felt this way.
The first time I felt this way.
That my opinion didn't matter.
That my opinion didn't matter.
That I was disrespected.
That I was disrespected.
All the way back to childhood or beyond.
All the way back to childhood or beyond.
Releasing the response from my chest.
Releasing the response from my chest.
Okay. So when you think about that now, did any other memories pop up from childhood or anything?
From my childhood?
Mm-hmm. Feeling like you're being called stupid or feeling like you're disrespected?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Regularly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So when you think about being in South Australia now, how does that feel? Does it come down?
Down a little, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what's there now? Was there a specific word that he said, or a specific few words that he said, or was it him going on and ranting about it, or was it?
That was his rage.
His rage.
That's something so innocuous,
Yeah.
I think.
Mm-hmm. Even though I remember his rage.
Even though I remember his rage.
And it was so disproportionate.
And it was so disproportionate.
And his rage was aimed at me.
And his rage was aimed at me.
I accept my body.
I accept my body.
And all my body's responses.
And all my body's responses.
That are trapped in my chest.
That are trapped in my chest.
And I send them back to where they belong.
And I send them back to where they belong.
They don't belong trapped in my chest.
They don't belong trapped in my chest.
I can still remember him ranting and raving.
I can still remember him ranting and raving.
It was so disproportionate.
It was so disproportionate.
It was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous.
And I can feel his anger.
And I can feel his anger.
His rage.
His rage.
And I took it on.
And I took it on.
Into my chest.
Into my chest.
My reaction to his rage.
My reaction to his rage.
My anger and rage at his rage.
My anger and rage at his rage.
I want to send it back to where it belongs.
I want to send it back to where it
It
belongs.
doesn't belong trapped in my chest.
It doesn't belong trapped in my chest.
And I want to release it.
And I want to release it.
I deserve to have peace in my chest.
I deserve to have peace in my chest.
Even when he's ranting and raving.
Even when he's ranting and raving.
Deep breath. How does that feel?
It's better.
So when you imagine him ranting and raging and going on about whatever it was he was going on about, what do you know? You don't know about Australia. Is that landing in use much now, or is it over there with him?
It's over there with him.
Good. So let's go to childhood.
Okay.
So when you said it happens all the time, give me a good example of an early time or a worse time or any time that pops into your mind. Being, having someone rant and rave at you, rage. Feeling indignant, feeling stupid, feeling like your opinion doesn't matter. Tuning into the feeling in your chest.
My parents were away from the house, away for the day, long day, and I was the youngest of 6 kids, and so somehow we got into this big house cleaning project, and my brother, who was 6 years older than I am, was standing over me while I cleaned the dining room floor on my hands and knees, and he didn't think I was doing it well enough, and so he was telling, he wasn't doing anything to help, he was just standing and giving me orders, no, you need to do that, you need to do this.
And how old were you?
7, 8, something like that.
Even though I remember
Even though I remember
being 7 or 8
being 7 or 8
and cleaning the dining room floor,
and cleaning the dining room floor,
and my brother was giving me orders,
and my brother was giving me orders, others,
watching over me.
watching over
He
me.
wasn't helping.
He wasn't helping.
He was just telling me what I was doing wrong.
Just telling me what I was doing wrong.
And I can feel that anger,
And I can feel that anger,
that indignant feeling,
that indignant feeling,
as if I'm stupid,
as if I'm stupid,
being treated like I'm stupid.
being treated like I'm stupid. Yeah.
Well, I was only 6 or 7.
When I was only 6 or 7,
I accept myself
I accept myself
and this feeling in my chest.
and this feeling in my chest.
I want to send this disrespectful feeling
I want to send this disrespectful feeling
all the way back to where it belongs.
all the way back to where it belongs.
My brother
My brother,
standing over me,
standing over me,
telling me what's right and wrong.
telling me what's right and wrong.
He wasn't helping.
He wasn't helping.
He was telling me what was right or wrong,
He was telling me what was right and wrong,
as if I didn't know.
as if I didn't know.
I was only 6 or 7,
I was only 6 or 7,
and I was scrubbing the floor.
but I was scrubbing the floor.
How hard is it to scrub a floor?
How hard is it to scrub a floor?
He wasn't doing it.
He wasn't doing it.
He was just giving orders
He was just giving orders
and criticising me.
and criticizing me.
That criticism,
That criticism,
him ranting and raving,
him ranting and raving,
telling me I'm doing it wrong,
telling me I'm doing it wrong.
all that criticism,
All that criticism,
I can feel it in my chest.
I can feel it in my chest.
All my reaction to his criticism.
All my reaction to his criticism.
Thanking my chest for holding on to it.
Thanking my chest for holding on to it.
But it's time to process and release it.
But it's time to process and release it.
All the way back to its origin,
All the way back to its origin,
wherever that began.
wherever that began.
I can't control other people's behaviour,
I can't control other people's behavior,
only my reaction to
only my reaction to it.
it. Releasing my reaction to his behaviour
Releasing my reaction to his behavior
out of my chest.
out of my chest.
Releasing my anger.
Releasing my anger.
Releasing my feeling that I can't do it right.
Releasing my feeling that I can't do it right.
Releasing all my reactions
Releasing all my reactions
to him standing over me, telling me what to do.
to him standing over me, telling me what to do.
I choose to feel peace.
I choose to feel peace,
Feeling peace in my chest
feeling peace in my chest
while I'm scrubbing the floor.
while I'm scrubbing the floor,
Hearing my brother talking in the background
hearing my brother talking in the background,
and releasing my reaction to it.
and releasing my reaction to it.
So how does that feel? So when you imagine yourself as 6 or 7, scrubbing the floor, the dining room floor, cleaning the dining room floor, and he's mouthing off in the background, is anything landing on you now, or is it all over there with him?
It's with him.
Good. And now when you tune into, you have some water, your brother, your son in Adelaide, or South Australia, I mean, on the beach, and he's saying, what do you know? You don't know about Australia. He's ranting and raving over there. How's it landing in your body?
It doesn't.
Good. It's over there with him. And what about a few months ago? He said, you're stupid, you're misinformed, ranting and raving. Anything in your body? All over there with him?
I just feel so disappointed.
Uh-huh. Good.
He can't make better choices than this
Mm-hmm.
with a way to live his life and to carry on relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's a different topic. It's not in regard to that incident. So, yeah, even though I feel disappointed
I feel disappointed
in the way my son makes choices
in the way my son makes choices
and has relationships,
and has relationships.
I accept myself
I accept myself
and any guilt I feel
and any guilt I feel
that I may have contributed to those bad choices.
that I may have contributed to those bad choices.
My son's bad choices.
My son's bad choices.
all the disappointment
all the discipline,
that he can't make good choices
that he can't make good choices
when it comes to relationships.
when it comes to relationships.
His ranting and raving,
His ranting and raving,
his anger and rage,
his anger and rage,
all my disappointment
all my disappointment,
that he can't have good relationships,
that he can't have good relationships,
releasing my guilt,
releasing my guilt,
all the way back to the first time I noticed it,
all the way back to the first time I noticed it,
when he wasn't making good relationships,
when he wasn't making good relationships,
when he wasn't making good choices,
when he wasn't making good choices,
when he started ranting and raving.
when he started ranting and raving,
My helplessness,
my helplessness,
my helplessness,
my helplessness,
when he started ranting and raving,
when he started ranting and raving,
releasing my helplessness,
releasing my helplessness,
releasing my disappointment.
releasing my disappointment.
Everyone has choices.
Everyone has choices.
Everyone has to deal with the consequences of their choices.
Everyone has to deal with the consequences of their choices.
Releasing my reaction
Releasing my reaction
to his choices
to his choices
and his consequences.
and his consequences.
How does that feel?
Felt good.
It's like putting the responsibility back there where it belongs.
It's hard to sort out, though, with parents and children, I think.
Yep. And there's probably a whole lot of other onion layers to work on around that, but that's a good start.